Hello patrons of the Rocketry Show. Thought I'd show you something pretty cool here. This is being recorded, by the way, inside the Rocketry Show studio. So here's our scuffed up desk of 15 years of various radio productions, but now we're using this for the Rocketry Show. And at the moment it's a makeshift TV studio, but I thought I'd make this video here and go over something that a lot of people have asked me about, and we've talked about it on the show a little bit, and it's about my modular rocket designs here. And right here I've got the booster section of the rocket I call Comanche, which is my level 1 rocket, which stands about 6 feet tall when it's launching. And I thought I'd use this booster section to show you what I do with my modular rocketry designs, since it's got just about everything you ever want to see here. So we're going to start with this part 1 here and show you a little bit of how this happens. So I'm going to take off this section here of the rocket, which is the section that has the apogee parachute should I decide to use it. Comanche's been doing tumble recovery for the most part, but if I do that, it will be stuffed in here. And as you can see down inside the tube here, you see the top end of the baffle for this section of the rocket. So we're going to take this apart and show you the baffle system and give you a little bit of an idea of how this is all put together. So these screws you see on the rocket, a lot of people think it's just a cool design thing, but it's actually part of this modular design. So we're going to take apart this baffle section here and show you a few things. Oh, by the way, before I take all these off here, you'll see here down the side of the rocket, and this is a replacement that I've done on this section here, and these pins are kind of bent a little bit. So I have to sand this down a little bit if I can and repaint this section. But this silver tube here going down the side, it's actually aluminum. It's part of the conduit, and you see there's two little pins here that are kind of bent out of shape here. But these two pins here are for the electronics. So at apogee, the flight computer, which sits up this way, has a little connector on it, and it'll send the apogee command down to the charge, which is in this section here. We'll get into that in another part here. And so that's what this tube, this silver conduit is here. I'll cut to a launch picture, and you'll see this rocket here taking off, and you can see the conduit down the side there on launch, which is kind of cool. So we're going to take this section off here and show you the baffle system and part of what makes the modular design so cool here. As you see, we have a rail button here, and I'll get into that as well. This little, you can't see it at the moment because my hand is in the way, but right here, this rail button here will show you all that stuff too. So we're going to now, the 3 screws that hold this section together have been removed, so we can now disconnect that. And you can see on this section here is one of the pins that are used to separate the, let's see if we keep it in focus here, separate the electronic piece. So here's the mating section here. You see the two pins there. This right here is the coupler piece, and as you probably noticed, this part slides over top of the coupler, and it fits down inside here like that. If you can see that there, and the pins go in. So this comes out, and it sits over top of that. And the way I do that is, you might be able to see a very slight rise there. I make a little transition there. You see the two parts here, where the outer covering that sits over top of the baffle and the inner coupling. That's to give it some rigidity so that it's nice and strong by overlapping the pieces. And then the screws go in through the bottom of the baffle comes out, and which is kind of cool because it can be cleaned. Now, in this section here, you see this is a very well used baffle, but that is the ejection baffle, little eye bolt here for the harness to attach to. And there are little T-nuts, and here's one here that's kind of exposed so you can see. There's a little T-nut in here that I stick onto the coupler inside piece with a little bit of JB weld, and I kind of get in there really good because that's part of the structural rigidity, so I make sure it's in there really good. The way I go about doing this with the JB weld is I'll cover the T-nut in JB weld, and also a little bit of the coupler. Then I run the screw through to get it nice and tight with the JB weld in there. I would grease the screws. That's the trick here, is I grease the screw down so that as the JB weld cures and dries, it doesn't stick to the actual screw, and so when I back it out, it comes out nice and neat. So if there is any residual epoxy in there, it actually comes in the shape of the screw threads, so that's pretty cool. As you see, I coat the wooden pieces in here with HVAC tape. It's just my little way, but it kind of protects the wood, gives me a little more a longer lifespan out of the coupler the baffle section here. And if the baffle wears out or whatever, I just replace this one little piece with a new baffle. So that's pretty cool there. Normally what happens, and on this one here we kind of lost the covering over time here, but normally I will take a little piece of the HVAC tape and cover over the baffle, cover over the T-nuts here to kind of give them a little extra protection from the black powder residue that goes off in here. And I think in here I wasn't too worried about it because I used aluminum T-nuts on this, so they shouldn't really come apart. Shouldn't really corrode, I should say. The good part about using aluminum T-nuts is that they, as I say, they don't really corrode like the steel ones do. The bad part is it's easy to strip them out if you are in a rush in the field and you screw it in wrong. So yeah, so that's, make your choice how you want to do that. Here you see this is it just becomes really an ordinary piece of tube with the little customized transition section here, and you can really get a good look at how that transition is. What I do is I take another piece of body tube and I lay it down over top, glue it down, and then I take some of the wood filler and I just kind of make a transition out of that. And then down the middle of all this is where the conduit lays. So if something happens to this section, which we've already damaged a piece of this section in a previous launch where I had blow-by on the ejection charge. So this original section here was destroyed. We'll cut to that here and show you the original destroyed section here now. Alright, right here we have one of the original apogee parachute section here that was destroyed in the blow-by incident. As you can see where a lot of fire came out this end of the rocket, of course, and you see some of the damage and where exhaust came through. Basically what ended up happening is when the blow-by happened and the ejection charge went off, the upper half of the rocket shot off, the rest of the rocket started to move up the pad. This part rammed into the upper section of the rocket, into the electronics bay, and pretty much destroyed this section. So I had to build a new section here, and as you see I changed the design a little bit as far as how it attaches. So we had the replacement section, which I just built a new one and kind of changed the design around a little bit to make it a little bit better based on some observations I had when I built the original design here. So that's one of the things I like about the modular section. I'll just show you a little bit here, since you'll be seeing some of the fin can section here in part 2. This is the original outer cowling, as I call it, for the fin. The fins would fit into these slots here. This was damaged when I had a design flaw in the first flight here, and I forgot to secure the fin can better to this section, and so it kind of ripped out on the first launch here. So that was replaced by the new one, which is on the booster right here now. So this is the replacement fin can section here. So there's a quick little glance at the Comanche in part 1 here on my modular rocket design, and this was kind of focusing a little bit on the baffle section I use and how I'm able to remove the baffle section, clean it up because it gets pretty dingy after a flight, as you can imagine. And the nice thing is I can take these apart, clean them all up, inspect them, make sure everything's good and solid and ready to go, and put it all back together again. So it's really cool. Part 2, we'll take apart the fin can and show you how this part comes together, and you can see what all these screws do here.